Good morning, guys. Welcome to another online, virtual, at-home, quarantine, lockdown, shelter-in-place, small groups. Now, if you're getting tired of any of those words, or all of those words as I am, there's hope. There's good news for you, and I can't exactly share with you all of what that good news is, but I will go ahead and tell you we are, as a student ministry team, trying to figure out the best ways that we can start meeting, following all of the rules that have been given to us, and being smart, using social distancing, all that stuff. We're still trying to figure out some pretty neat ways where we can still get together in smaller groups. And we think we have a few pretty good ideas. And so I'm really excited over the course of this week to be letting you know about those things. But a couple of announcements that we actually do have. This Sunday, as a church, we're kicking off a new online experience called The Lobby. Now, this is just something cool that we're adding to our 8, 9:30, and 11 o'clock service. This is going to be online this week, this Sunday. If you haven't been to service already, it's going to be me and Justin, our worship pastor, and we're going to be on the live stream 15 minutes early and then 15 minutes late. And we're going to do something very similar to what you guys are already used to on Wednesday nights and then also during our lunchtime devotionals, where there's going to be some back and forth during the service. So be ready to give some input, right? Ask some questions and engage with us. And so we're hoping that the rest of the church will be able to experience some of the cool things like we have been doing already on a weekly basis, or multiple times a week, actually. So that's something Justin saw how it worked for us, and he wanted the whole church to be able to experience. Anyway, called The Lobby. I'm going to be a part of that. So, hey, if nothing else, I'd love to be able to interact with you guys on a Sunday morning and with your family and see how you're worshiping and get your feedback during the service. So anyway, tune into that. It's going to be on Facebook and YouTube, where you watch the live streams already of our Sunday morning services. So just jump on there 15 minutes early, hang around 15 minutes afterwards, and it'll be a good time. Or at least I hope it will. I have no idea what it's going to be like. It's our first time, so you can help us get better. Other thing I'd like to remind you, and I told you about this last week, but just have a couple of people in mind that you are making it a point to check in on. And that is something you definitely need to do. This is very much a time where it's easy to isolate and to remove yourself from community and from friendships and all that stuff. So make it as hard as possible for people to fall into that feeling of aloneness and isolation. So this week, maybe one person a day. That's not too difficult for you guys. Make it a point to check in on them. And then our last thing, Wednesday night, we're going to have Wednesday Night Live again. So we'll be online, still going through week 3 of our series on family. And so I hope that you'll show up and be a part of that. We learned 2 weeks ago what it looks like that we are all part of an imperfect world. We are imperfect humans, so that means our families will be imperfect. And how are we supposed to engage with them during, with that in mind, and then especially during this season? And then this past week we talked about how we're supposed to forgive our family whenever they do things or say things or act in a way that hurts us or wounds us, belittles, makes us feel embarrassed, all those things. So it was a good conversation, and I really appreciate the people that showed up and contributed to those conversations. So I just ask you to show up this Wednesday and keep doing the same thing. And I guess last thing, we're going to be finishing James this week in our lunchtime devotionals, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon on YouTube. So if you haven't joined a single one of them, still not too late to do that. I would invite you, jump on, and it's a really good study. And I would love for you to at least just gain the tools of how we walk through and study a passage of Scripture. It's not just me teaching to you, it's helping you be able to sit down with the Bible and study it for yourself. So I'm just showing you how that's done. All right, so our lesson this morning, we are continuing in our study through the life of Jesus. Okay, so we've learned about the time leading up to his birth. We discussed his birth, and something we often overlook is Jesus didn't just go from being born, or being talked about for thousands and thousands of years. John the Baptist coming, talking about the coming Messiah, the coming Son of God, and then Jesus is born, and then he's all of a sudden 30 years old starting his ministry, right? We don't really give much consideration to the years between when he was born and whenever he started his ministry. And that's because the Bible doesn't actually give much information in the way of what teenage Jesus looked like, adolescent Jesus looked like, going through puberty Jesus looked like. And I feel like that would be really helpful for the Bible to give details on that. What was middle school and high school age Jesus like? How did he handle his siblings? How did he handle his parents? How did he handle relationships? How did he handle all the awkward things that come into being a middle school or a high school aged person? Obviously, he didn't have middle school or high school then, but you get the point. That would have been really helpful, but here's the thing, the Bible just simply doesn't talk about it. And so that's not really what we get, that sort of go through year by year of Jesus's life. The Bible really gives us just one precious window into this period of Jesus's life before he starts his ministry. And the glimpse that we're going to look at this morning comes from Luke, who, if you notice the detail that's in this story, it's like he must have sat down with Jesus' mother and interviewed her or something, because the details that come out of this story are so intimate and are so detailed, for lack of a better word, that it could have only come from somebody who was there, eyewitness experience, saw it with their own eyes. And so Luke previously described Mary's thought process and feelings, how she pondered the events of Jesus's birth and treasured them in her heart, is what it says. And so why pick this story? Because this is definitely not the only story that Mary told Luke. I can't imagine that Luke is, basically in my mind, interviewing Mary, writing down everything or remembering everything. And she probably talked about stories about childhood Jesus, about relationships with him and his siblings. I'm just guessing. I don't know these things, but relationship between her and him, or details about Jesus' dad that we don't really see much about anymore, or him growing up as a carpenter or the son of a carpenter, right? Like, there had to have been these stories there, but Luke chose this story to be the really one window or glimpse into Jesus's life, and it's Jesus's dedication. That's the only window we get into his childhood. And so when you consider all of the events that Luke could have given us stories about, I don't understand why it's this one, if I'm honest. Why is this one so important? So honestly, that's what I hope you gain this morning, where you ask that question. Why this one? Whenever it could feel like this seems like an insignificant story, this is, quite frankly, the only story we get about Jesus' childhood. So why this one? What's so important? So I look forward to you digging through that difficult question. I'm going to leave you with it. I'm not going to answer that one for you. You can answer that one in your small groups yourself. You got great small group leaders. Be sure to thank them this morning as well. They are working tireless hours, I am sure, and taking care of families in a new way that they have never had to take care of in this way before. And so they're still spending multiple hours, I'm sure, in preparation for your group. So make it a point to thank them, show them how much you appreciate them, and be attentive. So we love you guys. We will see you lunchtime devotional Monday at noon. Have a great weekend.